Hey everybody, Rex Bear Leak Project. How the heck are you? Super excited today. We're going to talk about the Schumann resonance and how it affects the human body, the human mind, personality. We're going to talk a bit about the CDC joke that came out several years ago where they had a comic saying, what would you do if there was a zombie apocalypse? We're going to look at that and if it's possible and if it would be maybe connected to the atmosphere collapsing, solar flares. We're going to talk about different possibilities. We're going to get into C60 as well. We're going to talk a bit about Buck Fuller Ministerine, C60, which is I've been taking now for several months, and I absolutely love this stuff. So thanks, Ken. I've even got my dog Luna. She's taking it. She's like a lab mix, so she's got a bit of arthritis and hip dysplasia. And sometimes when it gets colder, I notice she'll hop around on three legs, and she does great, but still I don't like to see that. And we talked to a vet, and the vet said that they could do surgery, but it would possibly be the same afterwards. So I've got her on a normal regimen now and I'm hoping that, because I've already noticed results in just the short amount of time that she's been doing it. She hasn't been limping around as much on three legs, but I'm hoping after maybe 6 months to a year, I'll really start to see a difference. My parents have a dog that's a pug that's just, I mean, it's like 100 in dog years, and they love it so much. And I don't know if I told you this, but last time my mom called me. She was super sad. She told me about how her dog wasn't, went out to the bathroom, and I'm getting sad just kind of thinking about this because she loves it so much, but it wasn't able to get back up. So she took it to the vet, and the vet gave it some medicine, and I also told, I sent her some of that C60 stuff a while ago, and I told her, to give the dog some, and this was a while ago that I sent it out, and she didn't give any to the dog for a while, but when she took it to the vet and she asked the vet about it, the vet said, yeah, why not? She started giving it to the dog, and the dog's doing great. So, but it's still about 100 in dog years, so I don't know how long it's going to go, but it's doing awesome right now. And I just, I appreciate it, man. This is the extra virgin olive oil, and I just got this in the mail. So thank you for sending me this. I was out, and you guys were quick on the response. But let's talk about the Schumann resonance. Let's get into it. I want to actually pull up a specific screen here on the Schumann resonance because it had a huge spike. It's had several just major spikes recently. And I'm going to leave the links in the video description box if people want to go to the link specific. But the Schumann resonance is fascinating. And if we look at this graph right here, let me pull this up. Here we go. Just recently, it spiked to 672. Before that, it was at 713. And that was just a few weeks ago, back in February, or a few months ago, back in February. But recently in November, it hit 672. And that's at a station in South Africa. My dog's barking, so I might have a post office guy here. I'm going to go check that out. But can you describe the Schumann resonance for us and like what this actually means?
Well, the Schumann resonance it's basically, it's usually caused by lightning strikes all over the planet, or making lightning strikes. And so the lightning makes waves, radio waves, electromagnetic waves, and then they go out, and it's a cavity. Basically, the Earth's magnetic field in the ionosphere is kind of like a cavity that surrounds the planet. And then that it's held, the cavity, of course, is created by the Earth's magnetic field. And so that keeps it, and that kind of resonates inside there. So there's a constant resonation going on inside there. But one of the things that they're talking about, the Schumann frequency is changing, is because the magnetic field of the Earth is getting weaker. And so it's essentially, making the change in the size of the cavity. So the frequency has been going up on the Schumann resonance over time. But it's kind of, yeah, because it used to be like 7. The lowest was like 7.3 or something, but now it's risen much higher. But that's because the cavity changes as the Earth's magnetic field gets weaker. The cavity gets essentially bigger, and so you get a resonance change in the Schumann frequency.
So it has a lot to do with outside environments also?
Oh yeah, and also, yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, we got smacked by the sun. Sometimes if you get hit by because it's the magnetic field of the Earth's kind of inside there, so it can get compressed too, and you get hit by we had a big solar flare that hit us, I think last week or something. And so that would compress it, so it would cause resonance changes in it. it's like a big, kind of like a resonance chamber. And you can either, as it gets the magnetic field gets weaker, it kind of goes bigger, but also it can be smacked by things, if it gets hit by outer space, big mass of ejection from the sun, it'll like squeeze the Earth's magnetic field too. And so that'll affect everything there too.
Now, how does it affect us as people? I mean, just
Well,
with our physical, physical
I think
body,
it's,
etc.
I think we grow, it's one of those electromagnetic frequencies that humans have grown up with. And so when the Earth's magnetic field is generally stronger than it is now, it's kind of like and I think even parts of our brain, the brain frequencies in our brain are actually resonate to the Schumann resonance, that our brain structure set up to resonate to the Schumann resonance when it's stable at a higher, and when the Earth has traditionally have a stronger magnetic field than it does now because it's particularly weak at the moment. And so that changes it. So, but if you get the changes that the human brain has that same resonant frequency in it to the Schumann resonance, is probably not a coincidence.
Yeah, right. Like, so for example, if I was to go look at the actual frequencies of the human body, they're 7 point something. I had them pulled up a minute ago. Let me see if I can find this.
7.32 is the core, when the Earth's magnetic field is strong, that's the generally resonance that the Schumann's at.
Right, but the body itself
Yeah, the
was
body
right
itself
about the same.
that are similar to the Schumann resonances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like you're saying. Check this out. Here it is. So the whole body, 7.5 hertz. I mean, that's pretty much spot on with the Schumann resonance on average. And then we're seeing these major spikes, right? So, like, let's go back to this chart. Just a few weeks ago, back in November 25th, the thing hit 672 down in South Africa. And you look at the numbers in other places hitting 90, 115. Now, see, I'm also questioning this. Like, why is it so much higher in South Africa at this one station?
That's probably because the South Atlantic magnetic abnormality. Because the Earth's magnetic field is changing and the poles are moving, and so there's this weak center, this weak place in the Earth's magnetic field, and it's called the South Atlantic anomaly, and South Africa is near the South Atlantic. It's off the coast, but it's off the coast of Brazil, between Brazil and Africa, is where the South Atlantic anomaly is.
Okay. Well, then let's take a look at this just to kind of show people, put into perspective so they can read this chart. So you see all these different numbers and these huge spikes and these huge changes. It's because they're on different places of the world. So you got California, Saudi Arabia, Lithuania, Alberta, Canada, Northland, New Zealand, as well as, I can't pronounce this properly, South Africa. So, I mean, I could, I'm sure if somebody said it, but there's some huge differences here. But once again, they're still 10 times higher in many areas. However, I'm going back to look at the Schumann resonance, and the Schumann resonance, as you said, I mean, there's three different types, right? You've got the fundamental mode, the second order, and the third order here, but still at 20 hertz.
Yeah, and there's probably higher nodes as well. Those are just like, there's probably fourth order. So there's a whole layer of those.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 7. I don't think it's that was like the old Schumann resonance. I think it's different now. I don't know what the actual the first order resonance is. I think it's higher now because of the weakening of magnetic field. So
that's got to have some major impacts though on DNA.
If the body is about 7.5, what they say, that you've pulled up, and so if your Schumann goes off to 10 or 14, then you're kind of you're kind of out of resonance, or you're with the planet's magnetic field is out of resonance. And that's another thing that people don't understand is like space travel. They're talking about going to Mars, right? And going to live there. Well, you can't really survive without a magnetic field. And you have to bring your own magnetic field with it. They did things where they took chicken eggs and they put them in a container, and then they neutralized the magnetic fields. There was no magnetic field inside the container. And then they had because they were fresh chicken eggs, right? They're actually embryos developing, and they just all basically became deformed and died without the presence of a magnetic field. So So when you get a lower magnetic field, you get health problems. And also basically there's a correlation on the Earth is when the magnetic field, the magnetic pole of the Earth gets really close to the rotational pole, that causes the magnetic field strength of the Earth to go down. That's kind of how it works. And so they've had, and they can actually, they've gone back and they can measure the Earth's magnetic field in the past. And they found that when the Earth's magnetic field gets really low, there's actually outbreaks of diseases and plagues, because it just weakens because we need to have a magnetic field to stay healthy. And so when the magnetic field gets really low in the historical past, then there's been outbreaks of plague and diseases. In fact, that's what's happening now. So anyway, so there's a correlation, because it weakens the human, I think the immune system, or the whole system, the whole person's weakened, and then, you get sicker easier.
So
that's
so sorry to interrupt. So a higher frequency with the Schumann resonance could actually affect the immune system in a negative aspect?
Oh yeah, but is it the higher Schumann resonance that's doing it? But also the higher Schumann resonance happens when you've got a weak magnetic field. So because it's essentially you're changing the size of the resonance cavity. As the magnetic field gets weaker, the resonance cavity essentially gets bigger, so your frequency goes up. So it's hard to tell. Is it really the Schumann resonance, or is it the weakened magnetic field? But definitely it's correlated with it's kind of hard to tell which is doing the worst of it. But it definitely having a wrong Schumann resonance, then you're basically, you should be resonating at the frequency of the planet. And if the planet frequency changes, then you're probably going to have, probably would have health consequences or brain consequences.
Well, this is certainly having, I mean, this is it. We're dealing with this right now. It looks like it's anywhere from 3 times to 10, all the way up to 100 times what it used to be.
No, well, those are the other order harmonics. So as you get bigger on the bottom order harmonics, everything, all the second order, third order, 10th order harmonics get bigger and bigger and bigger. Bigger, exponentially, because they, it's 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 kind of thing. And so when you get out there to 128, well, instead of being 128, it's now 500 and something, right? Whatever it is. That's because of doubling of the resonance. Because you have it's like a car string. You have all the different resonances. You can just have one frequency, or you can have a bunch of multiple frequencies. So it just, when the thing rings, basically. I think a lot of those are probably when the big ones are when core matter, like a coronal string, maybe hits the Earth's magnetic field and causes it to ring. But it's ringing at the wrong frequencies. Yeah, not good.
Is this signs of a pole shift?
I don't think so. I don't think this time it's because if the Earth's magnetic field, the pole of the Earth had gone, and the magnetic pole of the Earth had gone together, it would have dropped down to nothing. Because you can see this on Saturn and Jupiter, because we have probes out there. Like Saturn, Jupiter has about 11 times the size of the Earth. And when the Earth's magnetic fields, when the rotational part, like 10 point is because Jupiter's pole is magnetic pole is also away from the rotational pole. And so when it's at the same level at our pole, when we do a correlation, right, the North Pole, it's about, the magnetic field's about 11 times as big. So Jupiter's 11 times bigger across. So it's 11 times bigger in diameter. So the magnetic field's about 11 times bigger. But in Saturn, they have the magnetic pole and the rotational pole. And Saturn's about 9 times bigger than Earth, diameter-wise. And yet Saturn has a magnetic field like 1/3 that of the Earth's, because its magnetic pole and its rotational pole have come together. And that's what happens, is when that happens, then the magnetic field of the Earth or Saturn would go inside. And then depending on what the outer field is and the sun's field, when it came back apart, it could be reversed or not, because the sun basically has a quad pole. So if it's in one, it could come back the same as it was before. It could come back flipped, reversed, depending on what the magnetic field of the sun is on the outside. But I don't think it's going to happen this time. I don't think we're going to have a pole shift, because the Earth's North Pole just passed the rotational pole. Now it's heading towards Siberia. So we should actually start seeing the Earth's magnetic field strength increase over the next few years.
Oh, that's great, because aren't we going back into a solar maximum again?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, the problem is the weeks, yeah, because a lot of times when you have small solar panel, they don't know what's going to happen. But a lot of times you can get, yeah, because we got hit, because our field is so weak, and if we got hit by a big, a really big flare, that could cause some real problems. So, because it could take, you could, yeah, there's those X-class flares. We had one, I think it was the last solar system, that if it had hit us, the sun blew out a huge flare, and it was, I can't remember what the level was, but if it had hit the earth, we would have had serious electronic problems with, knocking down power systems and things. But it was shot off in the other direction, so it missed us. But if it had hit us, we would have been hurting as a planet. Would have shut down all the power structures and power systems on the planet. And that happened, just like 5 or 6 years ago. So it's like a crapshoot, basically. Maybe sometimes you get lucky and it misses you, but sometimes it hits you. So, and usually when the solar systems, starting up for another cycle on the sun, that's when it's kind of like a car, like the backfires when you start it up. Sometimes old cars used to do that. Sorry, they don't do that anymore. But so the sun can kind of backfire on you when it's starting back up again, and so that's when you get some of these really big flares, or you have the potential to get really big flares.
So, and also the magnetosphere is weakened.
Mm-hmm.
So if we,
have protection.
Yeah.
So if we get hit by the really big flare, who knows what's going to happen? So, yeah, so it's not a good thing.
Could a flare potentially push Earth out of orbit?
No, it would never do the person. But it would certainly mess with your your electronics. Would have a problem. And it's also, they only go on north south. So like if you get a big flare, it causes the east west things. But they had in that big Carrington event, they said some like barbed wire fences were aligned, north south. That's kind of where you get the surge. And they said they were seeing electric sparks between the barbed wires. That's not a lot of electricity. Ranches were seeing that because they had back then they had wooden posts to hold the barbed wire up, so they were kind of like insulated. So he was acting like a bit like an electric fence at that point. You wouldn't want to grab your fence when there's a flare going on. That's for sure.
No, not at all. And don't pee on the fence either. I wouldn't try that out. There are people that test out those electric fences that way, and it's like, why? You're out of your mind. Okay, try it out. Why not? Let's do it. Let's make a podcast out of it. No. This is wild, dude. This also makes me wonder if these major spikes in the Schumann resonance could be linked to extinction level events. There's mass extinctions going on right now with different species around the world. Also, if you look at the cosmic or the coral reef and the possible connection of getting fried from cosmic rays or some type of other pollution, much of the coral reef around the world is being decimated, and there are parts that are growing, but I don't know if they're doing it at the same pace. It just seems like there's some major earth changes, right? So I'm wondering if these Schumann spikes are connected to earth changes like that, as well as possibly mass extinctions.
Oh yeah, and is it they may be a sign that something's going to be happening. Yeah, because it's kind of a measurement thing, right? So if you see this if that measurement's going bad, then other things are going to go bad. So, but diseases always happen when the magnetic field weakens, and the Schumann resonance would change them. So yeah.
So I mean, we really need to pay attention to this. If this is a code that we can use in a cyclical mindset where you can see cycles and previous timelines because supposedly last year there were several Schumann resonance records from spikes, and this year it looks like there's been even more spikes than last year. And not a lot of people are talking about it. I mean, you've got some on the web, but not much media coverage at all. And it seems like it might have more of an impact than most people, just as far as a barometer.
Yes, exactly. That's what it's doing. A barometer. If you're seeing bad things like that, then yes, then you're going to have other consequences as well. And we have seen a lot of mass animal die-offs.
Yeah, and people are linking more of this this raise, this higher frequency as like higher consciousness and people ascending, but it actually might be the opposite.
Yeah,
the way you're talking.
we need to be grounded properly. I mean, you have to resonate. I mean, that's why if you went to Mars or traveled through space, you're going to have bring your own magnetic field with you, and maybe even have a resonance, Schumann resonance inside that magnetic field. So you'd have the magnetic field and like a bunch of resonances, so that your body stays in balance and harmony. Because yeah, they don't think about that. You can't survive without a magnetic field, basically.
So for space, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's basically it. Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to travel space or travel to another planet, you could absolutely do it. But there's a key component. You're going to have some type of magnetic field that's going to be connected to your natural resonance. And it sounds like it's going to have to change it. So you're going to have to find a way to adapt to that. Kind of like going deep sea diving.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, and if this magnetic field of the Earth got really, really low, let's say it does do a field reversal, but before it gets a field, the magnetic field of the Earth doesn't go away. What happens is it's either expressed inside the planet or it's expressed outside the planet. And so that's so when people say it's a weakening magnetic field, well, the magnetic field really isn't weakening. It's just kind of it's being trapped inside the core. It's staying inside the core. It's not coming out, expressing that's what's going on. So when you see a magnetic reversal, it kind of magnetic field goes back into the core of the Earth, and then it re-expresses, and either it could be reversed or it could be the same as before. But that's kind of how it goes. So the magnetic field doesn't go away. It just kind of goes inside the Earth. So that's what's happening.
That's intense. Now, Jupiter, Saturn, great conjunction. Last time it happened 800 years ago. Is that also possibly having an effect on the Schumann resonance? And what do you see? That's a sign, man. So many signs this year in the heavens.
Oh, we just had a total solar eclipse down in South America today.
Yes.
So that was a big. I went to the one here in Colorado. If any of the listeners are out there, you want to see a solar eclipse once in your life. You want to be in the total solar eclipse. And there's going to be one, I think, in 2024 in Texas. So
it's going out the 33rd degree parallel, the opposite direction as it did back in 2017.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be in Texas 2000. Yeah. So yeah, you definitely want to, if you have a chance, go see a total solar eclipse. It was so profound when I saw it. It was just amazing. It was one of those things that you should do at least once in your life. Go see a total eclipse.
Totally agree, Ken. Had a chance to go to Idaho and see the full solar eclipse off the 33rd degree parallel. It was amazing. Everything cooled off. It got dark. The energy was just wow. Now there's a lot of native customs where they won't even go outside during these eclipses because they feel as if tradition links it to something negative. And I don't know all the depth, but it's almost like I've got a great friend that's native, and he said that a lot of people in his culture have they fear change, right? They fear something that isn't known. So if it's almost like taboo, even to think about stuff like some of the conspiracy stuff that other people talk about. They don't get into it as much, at least from what I've gathered, what he's told me, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, and the craziest thing was at the solar eclipse, you could turn around like 360 degrees, and there was sunset. There was like a sunset on the edge of 360 degree sunset. And it was crazy. It was like red and orange, and it was there. And I mean, actually, the air has a color. The air, you don't see it, but you could see the different colors of air. And when it was, you saw that it was like you totally see, you look at the eyes, that's totally, it's like, you just see something. Actually see something you would never really understand. And so the air is differently colored than you think. That was crazy. Yeah, definitely go see a full solar eclipse if you can.
And it has a spiritual significance.
Yep.
And just so everybody knows, this 2017 eclipse that happened on the 33rd degree parallel, it started at Oregon and it ended at a location that was either 33rd degree something, or it was like the 33rd state. So I don't remember if it's Oregon that's the 33rd state that was incorporated into the Union. But then when it comes back, it's coming back the opposite direction. It's going through these towns in the Midwest. There are these tiny little towns that most people have never heard of, and they've got Egyptian names. It's so fascinating. Like our forefathers knew when this was put together, They knew about the stars. They knew about the alignments, and this information is still available. You just have to know the code, and either that or you have to be a part of the club. And I choose to be a part of my own consciousness. And, I mean, for those who want to be a part of the club, hey, that's cool. But I got my own path to go to. But the knowledge is fascinating. It's wild. It's got significance, like a spirit. It's activating certain parts of our body and our mind. And I do also believe, Ken, that as much negative there is just as much positive. So even at a mental level, the placebo, nocebo, if we focus our minds being these antennas to pick up on these high vibrations, super kind, healthy, love, happiness, we're emitting it into the universe. Then even with these higher spikes in Schumann resonance being the barometer showing that the atmosphere is weakening and such, I think that we can flip it.
Mm-hmm. And another thing is too going on is like we're in the Kali Yuga, right? The cycles of ages. And so actually right now is like going to be the appearance of the avatar. Because whenever the Kali Yuga happens at the thing, then you get the appearance of the avatar. So we're also having like the avatar appearing sometime soon. Maybe even he's here already, or maybe he's gonna, and that's actually maybe this, and usually it happens, or some of this happens with, signs in the sky, like, the Star of Bethlehem or whatever, but avatars will, so there's like Krishna and these other avatars that have come. So we're kind of in that time right now when the appearance of another avatar, either being born or, I don't know, it's something like that.
Ken, did you listen to my podcast I did 2 days ago?
No.
Dude, this is like another Matrix sync. So first of all, I got to say the first Matrix sync that happened was Colleen Black. She's an amazing artist. I was thinking about her today. She's in the chat now. Haven't talked to her in a couple of weeks. There was a song that came on earlier, and the song that came on earlier, and this is just today, was called Micrograms 1200. And it was on an album titled DNA. And this is on Pandora. Well, right before that song, earlier, I did a podcast on DNA. And I was thinking before the song came on, microbots and microdots. And then all of a sudden I started listening to a song called Micrograms, and it was under the title of DNA, which is so bizarre. But I did a podcast a couple of days ago describing what you just what you just kind of brought up there, and the return of the return of the Anunnaki, or the return of the Watchers. And I even put a time on it. And I usually don't put times on things, right? I very, very rarely do I put times on things, but the time I put was in March. That they're going to make themselves known, the return. And I've been talking about this, like the return. So what you just said, man, we're in the Matrix, dude. This is wild.
Yeah, so that's going on. Yeah, because it's part of the whole cycles things, and we're in one of those, because it's actually becoming the age of Aquarius too. Is happening because it's the last age was the age of Taurus, and that's when Judaism was around. They had the horn, and then came the age of Pisces. And what's the symbol of the Christians? The fish, right? The two fish, the age of Pisces. So now we're going into the age of Aquarius, and usually that also means that there'll be a new religion coming. Some new religion will appear. It's just at the very beginning, so you're not going to be seeing it right away. But a new religion, new, more global religion, just as the other religions have popped up, you'll have a new one coming too.
Yes, and you know how people a lot of people think that this is going to be the Lord of the Air in this now.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I can't. I don't know that much about that. Yeah, but it could be the Lord of the Air this time, or maybe it's water because it's Aquarius. I don't know.
That's the thing. I don't know if it's Aquarius, and if Aquarius is a water sign, then I don't know if it would be air. But I wanted to make this comment because the Lord of the Air, if you read ancient tablets, the Lord of the Air is Enlil.
Yeah, Enlil.
Now,
whereas the Lord of the Water is Enki.
Right. And people like to refer Enki to the devil, and a lot of people refer the devil as the Lord of the Air and the Lord of the Earth. Yet that Enki is Lord over water, not over air. It's Enlil that's the Lord over the air. So that's very interesting to think about. If Enlil is going to go back to being the the
Yeah.
ruler again.
And
What are your thoughts
Enlil
on
is
that?
also, the symbol of Enlil is usually like the eagle.
Yes.
Whereas the symbol of Enki is like the snake or the dragon.
Yeah.
So they have two different things there, and that's why, yeah.
So is Enlil, is it going to be Enlil that is going to be in power, or is it? We need to figure out.
Enki is going to be in power. See, we don't know. It's because at the age of,
Or
I could say maybe it's an Enki because it's, but that may not. That's a seperate thing. It may not. It doesn't have to conform to those things, but it
now
is
what?
kind of a changing of the ages, because you see this. You have you have all these things happening at once.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the Kali Yuga, we got the changing of the ages, we got all this stuff. I mean, this is one of those, the Chinese would say, an interesting time to be alive. Well, that's actually a curse, but we're definitely living in interesting times. Ugh.
We are, and speaking of my great friend Julian from TinFoilHat.Pro, him and I started these tinfoil caps with EMF liners inside, handmade, etc. We go back. He showed a picture from 2017. It was either 2017 or 2018, but there was a Corona beer next to the tinfoil hat, and that was the picture. And he said, "Did I foresee a conspiracy here?"
It happened. Oh, and by the way, actually, those tinfoil hats are the magnetic or EM proof. They actually did a scientific study. I don't have it. I don't pull it up, but they actually gave people a cap like that to sleep at night, and they had like 90% of them had a significant increase in their health, because when you got that cap on, you're not getting exposed to all the electromagnetic radiations. And so by sleeping it at night with a cap on, they just, well, they gave them like little beanie hats, but that would work too, is your brain doesn't get cooked by all the electromagnetic stuff going on, and it has time to heal. And so, yeah, it definitely, sleeping with like a electromagnetic, especially if you're living in an apartment complex, or how when you turn on your computer, right, you look at all the possible sites that you could possibly, that could, all the link ups. And so every one of those is irradiating you, all the modems and stuff. So yeah, so protecting your head at night from electromagnetic smog is a good idea.
Oh, and you know what? I mean, another thing too, a lot of people don't even consider this, but if you're close to a radio tower, like an AM antenna that's emitting 100,000 watts, that's a lot more than a tenth of a watt that a
Yeah.
cell tower might be emitting, or way more. And people don't think about that. But dude, you got 100,000 watt AM antenna in front of your house. That's
yeah, I was driving in Boulder today, and they have there's actually one like a big apartment complex that was built. And then I was driving by, and I just noticed that they had like cell phone towers on one side of it. So this one guy's apartment, was brick on the side. They had 3 cell phone towers on the brick right outside this one guy's apartment on the top of the building. It'd be like the penthouse thing, but you got, oh my God, how long would you live? I bet you that place comes up for rent often. They haul out the body and get a new. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting because some people are not worried whatsoever about the effects of cell towers, and some people are. And I've heard both sides, and I respect both people's opinions, and I choose to be close to nature versus close to a cell tower. But a lot of people don't even know about it. Like I said, a lot of people are in apartments. They're working in high rises and commercial buildings where if you look on top of the buildings, there's a ton of antenna systems. And it's not just that, it's all the other stuff too. I mean, you just build up over build up over build up. And we've even got like these EMF snoods and EMF shirts and all this great gear. But I did want to say also, you can't always defend yourself from electromagnetic frequencies because you're constantly covered in so much smog by just wearing a hat.
No, you can't. But you got to do what you can do, right?
Right.
So, and actually, there's a whole set of clothes now. Now you can get yourself an EM-proof hoodie, so you can put in that, and so when 5G comes, that's probably what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get yourself an EM-proof like hoodie, and then have like the reflective sunglasses on so that it doesn't cook your eyes. And that's just how you're going to have to live.
Dude, it's here.
Otherwise, you have very serious health consequences if you don't do that.
It's here. No, it's here, man. My phone, I got so many messages for the 5G install, and I kept delaying, and finally I didn't allow to delay anymore. So 5G is here. There's no question about it. And I certainly don't want to get into the debate of whether 5G is safe or not. Like I said, people have your own opinion. You can do your own research. I choose to do what I can to keep myself as protected as possible. Like the C60, for example. I love C60, dude. And I got to say, thank you for sending me this. This is actually in the olive oil right here. So extra virgin olive oil. Ken's favorite is in the avocado. And I love the avocado also. And I love the MCT. When I do hiking and biking and work out, I do the MCT oil a lot because it's just super quick. But there's actually, I think, a higher dose if you're to take the avocado or the extra virgin olive oil.
Avocado or the olive oil has a higher amount of C60 in it because they're longer chain oils. Where the MCT oil, that's basically short chain triglycerides, but that's and so it holds less C60. But the thing about MCT oil is, especially if you have like a glucose processing issues, because MCT oil can be turned by your liver into ketones, which then your cells can use as an immediate energy source. It's like flex fuel. They can either burn ketones or they can burn glucose. So it's just kind of like flex fuel for your body.
So I just took a hero dose. I just chugged a hero dose. Sometimes when I do my whiteboard sessions, actually quite often I'll take a hero dose of the C60, and it just kind of puts me in the zone, man.
I do that too when I'm working on science problems because, I got a few years on me and things just don't work as well. So what I do is I take like little tiny, every 15 minutes, I'll take like a little bit of C60 in oil. And then I could do like math and some of the science stuff I haven't been able to do since, when I was in my 20s, right? If by doing that process, so, you can kind of come back because, as you get older, everything doesn't work as well as it used to.
That's just a conspiracy, Ken. I wanted to show something here real quick.
This C60, it saves
that's a conspiracy. So check this out. If you're interested, folks, if you want to get some C60, I've worked out a deal with Ken where you go directly to the site here, c60purplepower.com/RexBear, or you can use the code LEAK10. If you go to c60purplepower.com, use the code LEAK10, and you'll get an additional 10% off. But I'm going to leave this link specific because after the video, click the link, order some. And then also, if you've got a dog or a cat or a pet, so this stuff also, you can get it for your pets, and it's in this dropper. So with my dog, Luna, she's such a sweetheart. And I remember a few years ago, she was in, she's such an athletic dog, right? Like she was doing stuff that I'm like, how did you learn how to do this kind of stuff? It was just natural with her. But for the past couple of years, she's had some like arthritis and hip dysplasia. And so I was like, man, should we get her surgery? And then that might cause, that might not help a whole bunch. So I've got her on the C60, and already I've noticed a difference. And I'm gonna keep her on a like a daily routine. And I'm probably going to give her maybe double the amount for a while, than I was before, and just keep track of it to see how she's doing a week from now, a month from now, and a year from now. Because I feel that it's going to help.
Yes, and there's two things with C60. Like you got two things. You got body size and age. So, if you're a younger person, probably a teaspoon would be okay. But when you get up, you might need 2 teaspoons or a tablespoon if you get up in your 60s and 70s. Because you need to, as you get older, your antioxidants your body naturally produces go down, especially SOD. So you need to replace superoxide dismutase, which takes care of superoxygen. And so C60 can do the job of SOD. So your mitochondria can function like they used to, and you get all the energy back.
In finishing up here, I would like to, first of all, say thank you for explaining the Schumann resonance and the magnetics and stuff. And folks, if you have any doubt about the intelligence of Ken, I can understand you doubting me because I'm a conspiracy scientist in the garage. No, I'm just joking. But I mean, I am a conspiracy scientist, but that's okay. Ken wrote a algorithm / formula that is used now in like space weapons,
Yeah,
basically,
well, yeah,
and satellites.
it's 3 magnitudes more accurate than Newton's did, and it's just a new formulation and gravitational formulations. And so, yeah, if you don't use it, if you have an anti-missile system, you have to use mathematics to make an anti-system missile system work. Because, and that's really was the problem, is they had really crappy mathematics. Because if you look at Newton's mathematics, it's not. It's basically what Newton did is he took the whole planet and shrank it down into a little point, and then you make which is great in the age of sailing ships, right? But in the age of so it's like off 0.16% at the equators and 0.3 at the poles or something, 0.3 at the poles, and so that's kind of hard to do. But mine is like 3 magnitudes better. So yeah, so it made, I designed it for space, like landing on planets like asteroids or Mars or something, that are oblate or prolate kind of bodies. But they of course took it and used it in missile systems and stuff because well, that's just the way it goes. It's unintended consequences.
Right, man. That's wild. And you've been working on MOX
Oh, Moxie.
formulas and Moxie formulas and stuff like
Yeah,
that for
metal
years.
oxygen fusion. Well, sometime we'll talk about that. I got a little paper here. So yeah, metal oxygen fusion is basically, for years and years, they had where did all the heavy elements come from? They didn't have a mechanism for like how heavy elements were made in like supernovas, right? And they used to have all this stuff. Well, it's metal oxygen fusion. It's actually, you can fuse any metal with an oxygen and basically make a higher metal. And it was actually, I didn't discover it. Osawa and Kushi, a couple of Japanese guys, discovered it before I was even born, but they got suppressed. So I read their research. I figured out what was going on, and we actually reproduced an experiment proving Moxie fusion. And and so you can, so it could eventually, it'll probably power. It's a fusion. It's a million. It's the yields are about 1/100th of regular fusion, like deuterium to thorium fusion, but it's a million times easier to do, right? These guys, they build these $10 billion tokamaks or other things, where they're going to do fusion. They got, okay, we did it with two 12-volt batteries and about $1,000 in parts. And we were making more fusion than these giant $1 billion tokamaks. And it didn't, dim the city when you turned it on. So, because it's real easy to do Moxie fusion. Way easier, millions of times easier than regular fusion. We just did it in our basement. And that's where I actually got C60, because I got C60 to protect against radiation, because all the other guys that had been doing it had like died, right? Or they died prematurely. And we found that out. It was because that cold fusion people talk about. Actually, what that's Moxie fusion. That's metal oxygen fusion. What was happening is they weren't having deuterium in the platinum and palladium lattices, because you can pack deuterium into these lattices, and then they said, oh, it's making, no, what was happening is they were fusing oxygen to like palladium, which makes nasty radioactive xenon, or they were fusing oxygen to platinum, which makes radon, right? And so here, I'll show you something. So these guys, and then it came, because they're electrolytic cells, it came bubbling up. So this is like, this is the same thing you'd put in your house. You can see those you can kind of see little dots there. Okay, this is what like the fresh one looked like. And then it's the same unit thing that you do for testing radon in your house. And then he put it in the electrolytic cell, the cold fusion cell. See all the little dots? Every one of those is a radon hit, or is an alpha particle from the radioactive radon. So basically what they were doing is they were making with those things, they were making huge amounts of radon or xenon, depending on which metal they were using, and then they were breathing it in, because it's electrolytic cell, so it just vents. So you're living in 1,000 times your worst radon basement, right? And that's like Fleshman and Pons. Remember the two guys that did that cold fusion thing in Utah? Well, Pons, they got so harassed, right, that Pons went back to France, because he was French citizenship. So he went back to France and he stopped doing anything with cold fusion, whereas Fleshman kept doing it, and he's dead now from lung cancer, I think, or whatever cancer it was that got him, because he was just breathing in all that lovely radon. And of course, radon breaks down as alpha emitter, emits alpha particles, which is basically like a gamma ray would be like getting shot with a 22. Getting hit with an alpha particle is like getting hit with a shotgun slug. So it does, alpha particles do way more damage to cells than a gamma ray does. So yeah, so he caught cancer and died. Oops. And a lot of those guys did. That's what actually was happening. So, but we took C60 to make sure in case there was something else unknown, because we don't really know. We still don't know a whole lot of things. It took Moxie fusion. Nobody, that they suppressed it. But so anyway, pretty soon there'll be Moxie fusion reactors here and there, and eventually become a really good power source all over the world for people. It's being developed right now in some places, so that's good.
Wow, that's fascinating, man.
But I
And
didn't
while
come.
you're talking, I'm just thinking the possibilities, the opportunities, the technologies, something like this, a very, in somebody's garage, if they had the right tools and techniques. And obviously now you're going to have some safety measures, major safety measures, because it sounds like it's emitting extremely toxic chemicals. So
Yeah,
how
well,
do you
that's
stop
what.
that?
Yeah, well, that's depending on what you're fusing. So we used iron as our anode, so we wouldn't do that. See, because so if you use the wrong metals, yeah, you can produce radioactive gases. But if you use the right metals, then they don't. It doesn't form, because it's a radioactive gas, like those noble gases. You can't control them. So you just make sure you don't use the platinum group families or some of these other groups, and then it'll be fine. But so we didn't use those. We weren't using those types of metals, so we didn't have to worry about that, breathing nasty stuff in the air. So you just have to be careful with which metals you use. What we did is we took oxygen and deuterium, and we were actually fusing oxygen and deuterium, and it makes fluoride 18, which then decays to oxygen 18, and it releases a little bit of heat energy. Because when we were running the little electric thing before, it was like electric spark apparatus in there. We'd run it all day and it would never do anything. But when we had the fuel in there and turned it on, it got so hot in there, in 30 seconds or so, the heat in the little reactor chamber go up, the air would go down, right? So we had to like pack ice on the thing, so we could even with that, it would go bad in a couple minutes. So we were making like huge over unity with Moxie fusion. So yeah, there's definitely use for that possible Moxie fusion for power plants someday. And it's like, because it's fusion, it's safe, right? You turn it off, the reaction stops immediately. It's done. It's not like a regular atomic plant where they have all these radioactive materials that are like toxic. No, you just turn it off and it stops. There's no residual radiation after you turn off the Moxie reactor, which is really good.
That's great.
You
Yeah.
don't have to worry about radioactive stuff. And there's a few you can, if you don't use the right electrodes, then you don't get the radioactive gases, and those things go away within like 20 minutes. They have a half-life of like 20 minutes, which is it wouldn't be a problem in the future.
Wow, man, this is wild. So let me ask you a question about the Schumann resonances. If there's spikes in the Schumann resonance, do you think that could also be a barometer for like headaches,
Oh
or
yeah.
might be
Yeah,
linked somehow?
there's definitely health, like the guy Suspicious Observers. Have you ever heard of that guy? Yeah, because I mean they actually have health alerts, because when the magnetic field, when the magnetic field of the Earth is weak, and then also the sun's field was weak, because it's in the solar minimum. You could actually they actually have health alerts. You can get there's like a huge, because cosmic rays are now penetrating into the Earth and down here, and you're getting hit with it, and actually can cause heart attacks. There's a definite increase in heart attacks that happen when you have a really weak magnetic field. And the Schumann going crazy shows you, oh, the magnetic field got suddenly weak, because the magnetic field isn't constant all the time. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, but it averages. So when you see the magnet, they average it out, but so you can see the little spike. So yeah, I mean, that would be like a sign, oops, incoming cosmic rays, look out. You're going to have, you can have potential health problems.
So I think that the key here is to use discernment, to keep to plan for the worst, hope for the best, be prepared, not scared. Do what you can, but
Mhm.
don't focus on what you can't.
Oh yeah, and some people have like magnets that they put on their beds, that so you can make up for the magnetic field that you missed during the day. You can come home and sleep on your bed, and then that makes up for the magnetic field that you missed during the day. So it kind of, you balance that out. So, and technically, you could probably even put a little magnetic field, wrap your house in a big coil and increase the magnetic field inside your house. If the magnetic field of the Earth gets really, really weak, you could make a little one for your house and just have it, so you make up for the Earth's being weak. So all those possibilities. I mean, it's just like there's all kinds of solutions. You just have to research them and find them out.
Well, Ken, I appreciate you spending some time with us again. And is there any other words of wisdom you'd like to share with us before we finish this up?
No, it's just, I mean, I know times are kind of difficult there, but don't let the fear get you. That's it is. Don't live in fear. That's the best advice I could give. Live with knowledge, and it's so much better. I told you the rat story, but yeah, before on why it's good to have knowledge versus not. I'll tell this to people again.
Share with us again.
Okay, yeah, they had this. This is a study. I don't do rat studies, but people sometimes. What they did is they had 3 sets of rats. They had one rat that they lived in these little metal cages with rat food, rat chow, and that's the control rats. Then they had another set of these rats, and what it was is they would shock the cage, randomly shock the cage, right? And then they had a third set of cages, and a big red light would come on, and then they would shock the cage. And so, obviously the control rats that lived in their little boxes that weren't getting shocked, they lived out their rat lives. All the rats that lived in the metal boxes, the little wire cages that were getting shocked, they all went insane and died from the stress of just the random electric shocks happening. But the rats that lived in the boxes where the red light came on and then they got shocked, they all lived because they prepared themselves. They said, oh, red light's coming on, I'm going to get shocked. It's going to hurt, but the stress didn't kill them. But where the random shocks came, and that's the same. That's why people should have knowledge. Kind of have an idea what's going on, understand the world around you. So, big shocks come, out there, and you just don't. It's just not like from out of nowhere. Yeah, we know this is going to happen. So yeah, we know it's coming, and that way you aren't like the rat that's just in the cage where something just happens and he says, oh my God, out of nowhere something happens, and something else happens, and people kind of, when they don't understand and things randomly happen, they can have mental issues.
I think you just described about 90% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
They're rats that get shocked in a cage, or rats that get shocked in a cage, because clearly they're not rats, but they're being treated like such.
That's what the things that they've been doing lately, their little great reset plan to, anyway.
I think that it's going to be the Great Awakening. I choose the Great Awakening. And if somebody wants to choose the Great Reset, that's.
Yeah, people always have plans to take over the world, and this is the latest.
Right. Yeah. What are we going to do today, Pinky? What do we do every day, brain? Take over the world. I love it. Now, I did, on a bright note, if somebody's interested in C60 and you want to know more, you can go back and watch the podcast that I've done with Ken. Ken's also got a great YouTube channel that describes C60 in detail, and that's the C60 Purple Power YouTube channel. I'll leave a link for that specific in the video description box as well. And go to c60purplepower.com/Rex. And then there's the line in between Rex and Bear, but I'll leave a link for that also. If you don't make it to the specific link, you can just use the code LEAK10 to get 10% off. But if you have questions also, you can call 1-800-367-9364. That's 1-800-367-9364. They will actually talk to you as a human being, and they like to help people, at least last I checked.
Yes.
You still have real people working there, right?
Sometimes, if you have a problem, just give them a call and they can fix it. Or they can
I will take your order. Sorry. That's what someplace like, yes, how can I help you? Oh, please hold for 5 minutes.
Yes, you don't have to sit there and press 1, press 4. You're a human being you can talk to directly.
Right.
It's so much better than those electronic, things you have to press 4, press 3.
15 minutes later, you're still pressing buttons trying to get a hold of something.
You to another spot where you listen to some other computer voice.
These goddamn buttons, I can't stand it anymore. Where's the invisible Bigfoots? That's actually from what I read, the media is describing the new phenomenon, right? That people are getting really nervous about this. They come out after 10 p.m. usually. So, the 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. thing, and they are invisible Bigfoot. Or they're invisible Bigfoots. So you need to have specific clippers to defend yourself now. And these are, they're going to be EU approved, right? But you have to change them out every month. And they also make sure that you're taking them with you everywhere you go. So it's the invisible Bigfoots and also unicorns. The media's
unicorns.
But you need to ride the unicorns backwards, folks. That's what the media's going to. Media's like, Ride him backwards. It'll protect you from Bigfoot because he's invisible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I'm freaked out, dude. I'm freaked out. Invisible Bigfoot. I mean, you won't know he's there. You'll never know, but that's what we got to worry about. They tell you enough, you're going to believe it. Thanks, everybody. You're amazing. Have a beautiful day. And I'm just joking about the Bigfoot, just in case you didn't know that. Or am I? Be the change you want to see. Ken, you're a legend, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.